I was just grabbing granola bars. 10 minutes later, I was elbowing some guy in the face because he tripped my little brother and laughed. I don't usually post stuff like this, but I can't stop thinking about what happened today, and honestly, I don't know how to feel. I'm not trying to be a badass or anything, I'm just really tired and pissed off, and maybe a little sad too. I guess I just need to get this out of my head. So yeah, here it goes. I have a younger brother named Zach. He's 17, I'm 22. Zach has Down syndrome. He's high functioning, super sweet, and yeah, a little awkward sometimes, but he's my favorite person in the world. He loves superhero shirts, especially anything with Batman or the Flash. He wears those huge over-ear headphones, even when they're not plugged in, just because he likes how they feel. He says it makes everything a little more quiet, which I kinda get. Zach talks a lot when he's excited, and gets flustered when people talk too fast or too loud around him. Most of the time, people are nice. They smile or just go about their day. Sometimes kids stare, or adults talk slower like he's 5 years old. That annoys me more than him, honestly. He just says people are weird and shrugs it off. Anyway, for some background on me, like I said, I'm 22, working part-time at a coffee shop, and training at an MMA gym 4 nights a week. I've been doing martial arts since I was 15. It started as a way to manage my anger, but I got really into it. I'm not pro or anything, but my coach thinks I could start fighting amateur matches this year. I'm not trying to brag, I just want to explain that, when I say I hit someone, it's not just flailing around. I've been taught how to stay calm and controlled. I usually avoid confrontation. I really do. But today, man, today was different. So Zach and I were running errands like we do every Saturday. We hit the usual grocery store near our house. He always pushes the cart, and I let him pick out snacks, mostly Pop-Tarts and way too much candy. But whatever, it makes him happy. We were just about done, and I told him to go wait by the cart return while I grabbed something from the pharmacy section real quick. It was literally going to be 2 minutes. I came back out and he was gone. For a second, I panicked, until I spotted him on the far side of the parking lot near a silver SUV. There were a few guys standing there, maybe college age, I don't know. They looked young, but not like teenagers, and they were laughing. At first I didn't get it. I thought maybe Zach was just being his usual goofy self, making jokes or dancing or something. Then I saw the way one of the guys mimicked the way Zach walks sometimes when he's overloaded. He exaggerated it, shoulders hunched, arms loose, dragging his feet, and the others started laughing harder. That was when my stomach dropped. One of them held up a phone, clearly filming. I started walking faster. I didn't even know what I was going to say, just that I needed to get over there. And then, one of them stuck his foot out as Zach walked by. Not hard, not violent, just enough to trip him. Zach fell forward onto his hands and knees. I think he scraped his palm. I heard one of the guys say, "Oops, clumsy Batman lost his cape." And the others just lost it laughing. Something in me just snapped. I didn't even think. I was already running. Not screaming, not yelling, just straight up walking fast and focused. One of them looked up and said, "Hey, chill, we were just messing around." But I didn't let him finish. I went straight for the one who tripped him. I grabbed the front of his hoodie with one hand, pulled him slightly off balance, and drove my elbow into his nose. I didn't hit him full force, just enough to drop him. Blood immediately started pouring, and he dropped to the ground, screaming. His friend tried to step in like he was going to push me or something. I pivoted and hit him with a hip toss, like we drill at the gym. He hit the pavement flat on his back and let out one of those winded wheezes like when someone gets the air knocked out of them. The third guy froze. The fourth one? Gone. Just straight up sprinted across the lot like he wanted no part of it. I stood there breathing hard, looking at the one with the broken nose, who was now crying and swearing and saying I was crazy. I didn't say anything. I turned around and helped Zach to his feet. He looked stunned but not hurt. His hand was scraped and a little bloody. I asked him if he was okay. He nodded, but wouldn't say anything. I said, "Let's go home." We were halfway to the car when someone called the cops. I wasn't gonna run. That's the part that probably surprises people the most when I tell them about it. I just didn't feel scared. Not of the guys, not of the consequences. I knew what I did. And I'd do it again. I had Zach sit in the car while I stood nearby, and waited. I didn't want him sitting there alone if those guys tried something dumb, but I also didn't want him hearing me talk to the cops. He was already shaken up. And yeah, I was still shaking too. But not from fear. More like pure adrenaline. The parking lot wasn't even that crowded, but by then, a few people had gathered. Some were recording on their phones, others were asking if we were okay. One woman came up and said, "Good for you, I saw the whole thing, that boy didn't deserve that." I just nodded. I didn't really want praise, I just wanted this to be over. Cop car showed up maybe 5 minutes later. A younger guy and a woman. They looked tired, but not aggressive. The woman asked me what happened, so I told her straight. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I said he tripped my brother, laughed about it, and I reacted. She asked if I had any prior altercations with them. I said no, never seen them in my life. She asked if I was injured. I said no. She asked if Zach was injured, and that's when I got pissed again. I said, emotionally? Yeah. Physically? He scraped his hand, but that's not the point. They took our names, asked for ID. I gave mine. Zach doesn't carry anything but his school card, so I gave them that too. Then they went over and talked to the guy with the bloody nose. He was sitting on the curb now, holding tissues to his face, and still cussing every few seconds. His friend, the one I tossed, was still lying on the ground, like he couldn't decide if getting up made him look stronger or weaker. The cops talked to them for a while. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could tell the energy was different, defensive. The girl cop nodded a few times, then looked over at me. Then they went inside the store to ask about cameras. That's when I knew I'd be fine. That store has security footage pointed right at the cart return and the parking lot. I'd seen the cameras 100 times. No way they didn't catch what happened. I leaned into the car and told Zach everything was okay. He didn't say anything, just held a granola bar in his lap like he forgot what it was for. He still had one of his headphones on, the other hanging off his ear. He looked small. That made me mad all over again. 10 minutes later, the cops came back out. The woman officer said, "We saw the footage, we're not pressing charges against you." Then she paused and added, "Honestly, I wish more people stood up like that." Her partner looked at me and said, "Do you want to press charges against them?" And I just blinked. I hadn't even thought about that. I said no, I didn't care about charges. I just wanted them to remember what it felt like to pick on the wrong person. One of them had the nerve to shout as I was leaving, "You think you're a hero? You're just a bitch who sucker punched me." I didn't even turn around. But I said, "Call it what you want. Just know I was the one who stood still when the cops came. You were the one crying." That shut him up real fast. Zach and I drove home in silence. Usually he talks my ear off in the car. Today, he just looked out the window. At a red light, I said, "You okay?" He nodded slowly and said, "I didn't think they were being mean at first." That hit hard. I asked him what he thought was happening, and he said, "I thought they wanted to play." He looked down at his scraped palm and whispered, "I didn't know they were laughing at me." I pulled the car over for a second, and just sat there. I wanted to tell him everything. How people suck, how it's not his fault, how I'll always protect him, but I couldn't get the words out without crying, and I didn't want to cry in front of him. So I just said, "You didn't do anything wrong, Zach. Ever. They were assholes. That's on them." He said, "But you hit them." I said, "Yeah, I did." And he nodded again, then said, "Like Batman." That made me laugh for the first time all day. "Nah," I said. "Batman doesn't fight in daylight." He smiled a little after that. When we got home, Mom asked why he was quiet. I told her the short version. She didn't get mad, which surprised me. She just sighed and said, "They're lucky it was you and not his big cousin Travis." I laughed. Travis is way taller than me. But yeah, she had a point. Later that night, after everything kind of settled, I couldn't sleep. Zach was already out. He gets wiped after too much social stuff, but I just lay there staring at the ceiling. I wasn't replaying the fight or anything. That part felt weirdly clear in my head. What I kept thinking about was how fast it happened. How I was literally grabbing granola bars, and then 10 minutes later I was throwing someone on concrete. And how that wasn't even the part that stuck with me. It was Zach, sitting in the car, not understanding why it happened. That's the part one couldn't shake. I kept wondering how many times that's happened before, and I just wasn't there to see it. Or he didn't tell me. Or he didn't even realize it. The next morning I woke up to a bunch of notifications on my phone. At first I thought it was just group chats or Instagram stuff, but then I saw someone had tagged me in a Facebook post. One of the bystanders apparently filmed part of what happened and uploaded it. The caption was something like, "Girl goes full UFC on these losers for tripping her disabled brother. I'd marry her right now." I rolled my eyes so hard I think I saw my own brain. But yeah, it had already gotten a few thousand shares overnight. Comments were flooded with people saying, "Good for her. She did what anyone should do. They deserved worse." And of course, the usual keyboard warriors saying things like, "Violence is never the answer." I didn't comment. I didn't share it. I didn't even like it. I just texted the girl who posted it and said, "Hey, I'd appreciate it if you could blur my brother's face." She replied right away and said she'd take care of it. And she did, to be fair. But the whole thing still felt weird. Like it wasn't mine anymore. This real thing that happened to us. Now it was just internet content. People were arguing in the comments like it was a video essay. Some people were mad I didn't press charges. Some were saying I used excessive force. Someone even found my old training videos from my gym's Instagram and started saying I was a threat. Like, okay, I get it. The internet's a mess. But it still threw me. Especially when I started getting DMs. Most were just, "You're awesome" or whatever. But a couple dudes asked for my number. One guy sent me his phone number and said, "You can protect me anytime." Like, gross. I stopped reading after that. Told my coach about it, and he just laughed and said, "Welcome to going viral." I told him I didn't want to be viral. I wanted groceries. He said, "Well, you got both." I wasn't mad at the girl who filmed it. She meant well, and honestly, the video helped confirm everything with the cops. But still, There's something kind of violating about watching yourself hit someone on a loop on random people's phones, especially when you didn't sign up for it. Zach didn't even know it was online. And I didn't tell him. What was I gonna say? Hey, remember when that asshole tripped you? Now it's trending. No thanks. He was fine the next day, still a little quiet, but back to playing Mario Kart and asking if I'd let him have soda with breakfast. I said no. He said Batman would, which almost worked, not quite. Mom was surprisingly chill about all of it. I think deep down she knows what the world's like for Zach, even if she doesn't say it out loud. She told me, "You protected your brother, that's what matters." I asked her if she thought I went too far. She said, "If someone had done that to you, I'd have hit them with my car, so I guess I got it from somewhere." Still, it was a weird 24 hours. I couldn't stop wondering how many people out there only get involved when it's too late. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't come outside when I did? Would they have done more? Would Zach have even known he was being bullied? He still doesn't really get sarcasm. Or fake kindness. It scares me sometimes, how much he trusts people. It's beautiful but scary, like walking around with your heart on the outside. I thought about that all night. And yeah, part of me is still mad. Not just at those guys, but at the fact that people like Zach have to walk through the world hoping someone decent is nearby, just in case things go south. I can't always be there. That's the part. One hate most. A couple days went by and things started to settle. The post stopped getting shared, or at least I stopped hearing about it. My coach told me a couple other local gyms had reached out asking if I was the parking lot girl, which made me want to hide in a locker. One guy offered to sponsor my amateur debut, which sounded cool until I realized he probably just wanted a piece of the drama. I said no. I kept going to work, kept training. Zach went back to school like nothing happened. He didn't talk about it much. I asked him once if he remembered what those guys said. He shrugged and said, "I think they were mad because I didn't laugh at their joke." That hit harder than I expected. I told him people like that don't know how to handle kindness. He nodded, then asked if we could get chicken nuggets after practice. So we did. I thought maybe the whole thing would fade out. But then yesterday, I was getting gas, and a woman I didn't know walked over and said, "Are you the one from the video?" I hesitated, then said yeah. She said, "Thank you for doing what so many of us wish we had the guts to do." And I didn't know what to say. I smiled. I said I just reacted. She said, "You protected someone who needed it. That's enough." Then she left. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that either, because the truth is, I didn't feel brave. I felt angry, tired, protective. I didn't act because I wanted attention or to teach anyone a lesson. I acted because someone hurt my brother and thought it was funny. I acted because I've spent my whole life watching people pretend not to see when someone like Zach gets laughed at. And I guess that was just the day I couldn't pretend with them. Maybe that makes me reckless. Or maybe it just makes me a sister. Either way, I'm not sorry. I'd do it again. Even if the whole world saw. Even if I had to explain it 100 times. Even if some internet rando thinks I overreacted. Because no one should get tripped and laughed at for existing. And no one should have to wait for a sibling who knows how to fight to feel safe in a parking lot. So yeah, I'm not posting this for clout. I don't want a medal. I just needed to say it out loud, even if it's just to strangers. I hit a guy because he hurt my brother. That's the whole story. Thanks for reading.